A few months ago, a young woman came into our home and she said something like, "This house reminds me of Disney World." I chose to take that as a compliment. The goal in my home was to make it feel like a French cottage. The French influence is subtle, but in my main floor bedroom, it's more direct. Today, we're going to look at design ideas I took straight from French interior styling, and we will end with how I was hopefully able to create a room that flows naturally between the rest of the house and doesn't look like a Beauty and the Beast themed room at a Disney resort. In the previous videos, you might have caught a glimpse of our main floor bedroom, but all I have shown is this one side of the room, which can actually be seen from the front door. Just so you know where we started, this is what the room looked like when we purchased the house 7 years ago. The window air conditioner was held in place with duct tape, and the upper glass was completely obscured by dust and debris. The other windows had broken seals, meaning any view was foggy. Are you ready for the bedroom tour? It's recognizable as the same room. My biggest change in this room is the windows, including this French door. Most of the alterations in this room were purely cosmetic. New flooring, new paint. I love being able to see the garden. In the spring, there are 2 bushes that bloom right outside this window, so close you could open the window and pick flowers. Is there a scene in Beauty and the Beast where she does that? Casement windows give a strong cottage feel to the whole house. The real starting point for my decorating was the rug my sister-in-law gave me, a sculpted Chinese rug from the 1980s, a very thick piled rug with a pattern carved into the pile. The pattern is based on some of the traditional Aubusson rugs made in France. They market this as an Aubusson, but it's not. Someone is probably going to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, but the antique French Aubusson rugs that sell for big bucks are more like a thick tapestry, like a Kalim if you're familiar with handmade rugs. So I put this rug upside down and it looks woven, no pile. My faux Aubusson. French fabrics were my next stop. I used 2 different toile de Jouy fabrics. Toile de Jouy is recognized by its classic pastoral scenes, usually with a limited color palette. I also use ticking, a quilt, a striped brocade, and handmade lace, all classically French fabric choices. The blue toile and the blue ticking I purchased from fabricguru.com, my favorite online fabric source. My faded, stained 30-year-old coverlet was still serviceable, so I created a reversible duvet cover for it, toile on one side, ticking on the other. I used the old dust ruffle and just sewed the ticking on top of it. A lot of straight sewing. I use an existing white quilt on the bed also. Quilts are very French, and you thought it was just an American thing. I played with the duvet cover to find what worked best visually. My eye needs a rest, so I just have the toile at the foot of the bed. I made my own bedding because I wanted it to match my chair that belonged to, wait for it, my grandparents. Based on the style, I suspect it was from the late 30s or 40s. When I reupholster old pieces, I really appreciate the quality. They don't make things like this anymore. I am not going to do a DIY upholstery tutorial, ever. I have been upholstering things for 45 years, but I'm an amateur who's willing to tackle projects way beyond my skill set. If you're interested in upholstery, there are plenty of YouTube videos made by professional upholsterers that cover everything from replacing the fabric on a simple dining room chair to completely rebuilding an antique sofa from the frame up. Here are the things I've learned. First, don't even bother unless the frame is sturdy, solid wood or metal. Second, your first project should be a solid fabric, no patterns at all. Third, learn from the pros. They are artists. Fourth tip, repairing the guts of the chair is often easier than you would expect. And lastly, and most importantly, use a pneumatic staple gun. I use my husband's air compressor that he uses for nail guns and spray painting stuff, and I just buy the attachment that has the stapler on it. It makes a great deal of difference with the hardwood frames. The other toile in the room came from a local fabric store, Hot Fabrics, hot like H-A-U-T-E, the French, Hot Fabrics. They're out near Dulles Airport if you live in the DC area. She has an amazing selection of decorative fabrics, including discontinued high-end fabrics. Most good-sized cities have a comparable fabric store locally. This little sofa was a salesman sample that I got for free just because I asked. The guts were held up by plywood that had been nailed to the underside. I had to do all new webbing, retie the springs, rebuild the back, strip the wood. It was quite a project, but I love it. I think they call that the IKEA effect. If you build it, you're emotionally invested. And I love my little piece. This is the only place in the house I could find to put it. It doesn't fit all that well in the room, but like a naughty child, I love it too much to get rid of it. We put the bedding on it at night and the cat naps on it, so it does have a function. Kids like to test it out, but kids don't really sit. The next fabric is the Baroque influenced brocade on the antique sewing rocker. This fabric has a Versailles or chateau feel, very formal. I actually paid a professional about 35 years ago since it had to be rebuilt. This piece also feels a bit awkward in the room. I need to redo one of the upstairs bedroom and I think this might be perfect up there. But for now, it stays here. The last French fabric is the lace. This tablecloth is draped here for staging just for you. Classic French bedrooms always seem to have beautifully handmade lace bedding. I will probably redo this side of the room in the future, maybe a round table with the tablecloth. I think on that one. Another French touch is my DIY Trumeau mirror. I will put a link in the description below to our video on 9 easy French DIYs, and you can see how to do this. Next is a large print by a famous French artist, Renoir. I love this picture. It's so big I can see it in the morning before I put my glasses on. This small watercolor is a Parisian street scene from the late 1940s. From the 1930s through the 1960s, they sold original art in department stores, lots of it. This was one of my mother's, but I often see things like this in thrift stores. Other little touches include French perfumes, old lipstick cases from my mother and grandmother. This one is my favorite with the little mirror. And vintage beaded bags. The French are all about stylish clothing items. Be sure to hit the like button if you're enjoying the video. It really helps this video to be seen by other people. The furniture in the room is all old, mostly Victorian. The marble top table was one great-grandmother's, but my favorite story comes from the wrought iron bed. It belonged to another great-grandmother. The youngest of their 5 boys was left at home with the housekeeper while everyone else went to church. Sutton and the housekeeper's little girl were upstairs in the attic playing Halloween, making jack-o'-lanterns out of paper bags. They even put lit candles in them. When they were finished playing and went downstairs, you can guess what happened. When my great-grandparents returned home, the house was gone. My great-grandfather put his arms around his wife, told her they would build it back exactly like it was. This is a picture of the rebuilt house. The only thing that survived the fire was the wrought iron bed. And you thought your kids were naughty. Uncle Sutton grew up to be a bank president and the nicest man, not an arsonist. We have the foot of the bed and the side slats downstairs, but they can't be used with a queen-sized mattress. The 2 small chests, the sewing rocker, the little sofa, and a random chair are all Victorian pieces I have acquired for minimal or no investment. Victorian furniture went out of style 120 years ago and has not gotten any respect since then. Because it can still be purchased rather inexpensively, stylish young people are beginning to include it in their decor. The last pieces of furniture are the pedestal table and the buffet from my grandmother's dining room furniture. Old, but nothing interesting. But there are some interesting thrifted finds in this room. The original pastel of Texas bluebonnets, dated 1937, was picked up at an estate sale in Colorado 23 years ago with the frame for $25. It was done by a recognized local artist from Palestine, Texas. This piece of art pottery was handmade in Fredericksburg, Texas, found at a thrift store here in Virginia for $1.99. You may think it's strange to have 2 Texas pieces in my French room, but Central Texas has a surprisingly strong south of France feel. This original watercolor, painted by a member of the American Watercolor Society, was also found at a local thrift store for under $10. I love it because it looks like my old kitty Yoshi. Most of the botanicals were thrifted or framed pictures from a 1989 Laura Ashley calendar. Nothing's cheaper than an out-of-date calendar. Thrifted candlestick holders, thrifted shelves, a thrifted plate, a thrifted mug, a thrifted lamp. There are so many treasures at thrift stores. The birds are hand-tinted lithographs that belong to my mother. The Columbine print, signed and numbered by an artist from Evergreen, where we lived for 35 years, was a gift from a friend. The only things in this room I bought new were the 3 brass lamps, the big Renoir print from Ross, 2 battery-operated candles, our pillows, and the fabrics I used. I even got the mattress for free on a church listserv. I'm one of those people whose enjoyment of an object is inversely proportional to how much I spent on it. The less I spend, the more I like it. Some people get a rush from spending money. I find it annoying. There's a trend on YouTube to show your haul after you've gone shopping. Then people can go out and buy the same thing. Then your houses can look alike. My house will never look like anyone else's, and no one could possibly duplicate my look. If imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, I'm not going to get much flattery. Imitation is fake, a duplicate. And I think people should be true to themselves, find their own unique style, be inimitable. At the first of the video, I promised to address how I could have a very strongly French bedroom, yet still have it flow gracefully with the rest of my house. Here are the things I do. First, use the same flooring and paint colors. Second, use furniture with similar styles and wood stains. For me, that's darkly stained wood. Number 3, carry colors from one room to the next. The gold color on the walls is hard to miss. There are touches of blue throughout my house, and most importantly, I bring sagey and deep greens and deep reds into my blue bedroom. Greens are easy to add with plants, but they're also in the rug, the art, some books. The red is really fun to look for. Look in pictures, books, decorative items. Play Where's Waldo while you look at the room. See if you can find the red. Number 4, I always think about how an item would work in multiple rooms. For example, I brought in 3 pillows that I keep on my living room sofa at the opposite end of the house, so you could see how they work in this room. I chose pillows because they're super easy to move, but I can move artwork, furniture, lamps, rugs, anywhere in the house because the entire color palette for the house is cohesive. If I had to start all over again with just my old wrought iron bed, I would begin every day with 5 minutes on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, hit the thrift stores several times a week, and get to know the antique dealers near me. The hunt can be a great adventure. The most creative solutions and the best stories begin with the biggest challenges. See you next time.